Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th installment of the online seminar series of the International Tree Mortality Network. My name is Rupert Seidel, and I'm very happy to welcome you today. The International Tree Mortality Network is a network activity that concerns global tree mortality patterns and processes. And you can find more about our work on our website, which you see on the lower left of this slide. Also, you can find all the other seminar talks that we've been having in this series on our website, as also this talk will be recorded. So please feel free to watch at the old seminars and share the links with colleagues that you think might be interested. I should also mention that the International Tree Mortality Network is an initiative of the IUFRO Task Force on Tree Mortality. Today, I'm really happy to have Vyacheslav Karuk with us. Vyacheslav is head of forest monitoring at the Sukachev Institute of Forests, located in Krasnoyarsk in Siberia. And as those who are following the seminar series for a long time know, we're trying to put spotlights on tree mortality in different parts of the world. And I'm really happy that Vyacheslav is one of the foremost experts on tree mortality in Siberia and will tell us more today on conifer decline and mortality in Siberia. He has worked extensively on the Siberian forests, including fire dynamics, bark beetles, all kinds of mortality, but also forest dynamics in general. So we are having with us today one of the leading experts on the vast Siberian forests that also on the global scale is really important. And I am very much looking forward to this talk. Before I hand over to Vyacheslav, just a few housekeeping rules. You are able to ask questions. So we will have the talk following by a question and answer session. Please ask your questions at any time during the talk in the Q&A section. There is a button at the lower portion of your screen. You can type the questions already during the seminar. And at the end of Vyacheslav's talk, we will be selecting individual questions and asking them, and Vyacheslav will answer. Please also bear with us if we are not able to address all the questions. Usually there are more questions that we have time for, but we will do our best to get all your questions answered. With that, I'm happy to hand over to Vyacheslav and look forward to an exciting seminar. Vyacheslav, thanks for being here, and the floor is yours.
Okay, good. Oops, sorry. Okay, folks. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Let me share some knowledge about the conifer decline and mortality in the central Siberia. It has been decline mortality has been observed over the whole boreal zone, as you know, in North America, Europe, and Russia. And this report we consider the following aspects of this phenomenon in Siberia. First, Siberian pine and fir as a major species, which experience decline in mortality. Then the major dangerous bark beetles, here this list, and the major conifer defoliators, it's primary Siberian moth and gypsy moth, and our recent immense Totrix and fungi attacks on the Larix sibirica stands in the southern, in the central Siberian southern mountains. Main species which experience decline in mortality, Siberian pine. This is five-needle pine, zoochoric at shade-tolerant species. Namely, this bird is spreaded about responsible about for 90% of the regeneration Siberian pine. This lifespan span about this 500 years, and precipitation sensitive species which does not tolerate low humidity and with upper elevation limit more than 2,200 meters. And Siberian fir. This is also shade-tolerant species with shallow root system and also this precipitation sensitive and does not tolerate air humidity. And this species formed mixed fir and Siberian pine stems. And the study area which we discussed in this presentation included over 95% of Siberian pine and fir range. Here the test sites, it's not all sites, but some of them 15 test sites, and Siberian pine and fir trees, green it's healthy, and purple also healthy, and yellow and red which are killed or damaged. And oval indicates the latest huge outbreaks, which covered about more than 2 million hectares in these years. Yeah. In general view on the Siberian pine and fir decline mortality. Here you see the annual and cumulative Siberian pine and fir mortality. Actually, currently about 4% of fir and about 7% of Siberian pine ranges, trees within these ranges killed. And forest mortality now estimated as about 3 million hectares during the last decade, since beginning of this century. But actually, a couple of years, mortality decreased due to more humid years. And here we can watch visually how mortality is temporal dynamic. You see that red spots, they are slightly enlarged for visibility dynamics through the years, through the since this map until the year 2070. And generally, Siberian pine and fir mortality, of course, related with the topography features. It is mostly observed with the southward slopes for both species, and mortality is increasing with temperature degradation increase, and increase with ozone moisture content decrease, and also it's related with drought, which is indicated by SPI drought index. Consider the dark needle conifer. Dark needle conifer is forest composed by forest which consists of Abies sibirica, Pinus sibirica, and spruce. And consider this Altai mountain origin, this greatest mountain region in actually in Siberia. Here this is map generated based on the remote lab data. This is red, whereas indicates areas where the dark needle conifers decline, and green where the area increasing. And this is a cross section. You see that decrease of forested area observed at low lengths, below approximately 2,000 meters. Whereas at a higher elevation, forested area is increasing, and trees are migrating uphill. And studies also indicated that with aridity increase of these species, fir and Siberian pine, in lowlands have trend to be substituted by tolerant species like Larix sibirica and Betula species. And consider the conifer mortality caused by bark beetles. Insect pests along with wildfires are the major factors in Siberian taiga dynamics, and insect outbreaks, colloquially called grain fire. And here you can see the major bark beetles which are feeding on our conifers, Polygraphus proximus, Ips species, and also Monohamus russavi. Consider Monohamus russavi. It feeds on the fir trees. It is the typical secondary pest within the Siberian mass outbreaks areas. On this imagery, you can see the red crowns, that trees which were weakened actually by Siberian moth, and they killed by these bug beetles. It's image of the outbreak in 1919 in Siberia. Ips typographus. This species feeds on spruce trees, but there is no reported outbreaks of this species in Siberia. Actually, mostly because spruce are not so abundant in our area, and it's mostly located along the creeks and the rivers. But in European Russia, this species since beginning of this century until 14 killed more than 1 million hectares of the spruce, as well in the Belarus, whereas this species together with the other species killed actually most of the spruce forest, about 300,000 hectares. Ips sexdentatus. This species feeds most on Siberian pine. It is Siberian species. It is not invader, and periodically it makes some not big outbreaks, less than 1,000 hectares. And here you see an example on the hills. This gray Siberian pine stands. They are killed by this small bug. Ips amitinus. This is considered as an invader from the western Russia, and it was found just 3 or 4 years before in the central Siberia, but still outbreak are local. You see the Siberian pine. Primarily, it damaged upper part of the crown, or Siberian pine which are killed in the Siberian lowland. And finally, Polygraphus proximus. This is indeed the beast. This is the most dangerous enemy of our fir trees. It's considered as an invader. Also, some zoologists are not agree with this. This bug caused fir mortality over 600,000 hectares, actually since beginning of this century. And this bug is a competitor of the traditional bug beetle Monohamus russavi. Now, actually, we are observed that this bug house it spread more easily. It's start to be active earlier than Monohamus russavi, and actually he responsible on the major part of the Siberian fir loss. And here the case study is within our beautiful national park Stolby, which is just across the river where I'm sitting now. And this is area of this park, about 700,000 hectares. And you see the progress of mortality, how the green turned to red since the 2005 until it was continuous until the 2018. Now you see that majority, about 70% of the upper canopy killed. And you see here the typical shore which try to resist this bug, this enemy, but these trees were weakened by drought stress, and they after that this Polygraphus proximus killed them, but shore regeneration, even under that canopy, was mostly healthy, and its number about up to 10,000 per hectare. They are fairly good enough for restoring that this shore stance. But if no other drought events will occur in the future, and we followed, we started the growth index changes preceding from mortality. Here you see acute droughts, they are shown here by, and this acute drought in this year, and also this addition, it split the population or shore population into two cohorts, one of the decliner and one of the survivor. But again, we didn't stop with survivors are about 30%, decliners, and which finished finita la commedia about 70%. But under the canopy, you see the regeneration, which was even under that canopy, it's still growing, it's still increasing in growth. Not all, but the majority of regeneration. And the other example, it is shore growth in mixed stance. You see here in both these photos, shore undergrowth and shore actually tree stand, which now goes to the upper canopy, within mixed with aspen, and you see that they are healthy. The majority of them are healthy. They are living in the, together with other species, and they are healthy. Possibly because upper canopy mitigate a drought impact on the most precipitation sensitive shore trees. And you see here the decreasing increment, growth increment index in the pure stance, and also stable with some, of course, some variations within the mixed stance. And let's consider defoliators caused canopy mortality. The major defoliators of Siberian taiga, Siberian moss, which feeds preferably on fir and Siberian pine, as well as also on the larch trees. Well, when there's no food base and the peak of at the peak of outbreak, this piece could eat also even Scotch pine and even grasses. And you see this female, male larva and larva which are overwintering in the under the forest cover, on ground cover. And gypsy moss. But these defoliators preferably feed on the large and broadleaf species, and very rarely on the short Siberian pine. Actually, it is not cause a high mortality because larch may survive even after complete defoliation because of sleeping buds. It's also covered with green, but repeated double defoliation during the growth season caused large mortality. But actually, it is southern species. It is not goes to the our large forest in the Yakutia, northern Siberia, and permafrost. In that area, Dendrolimus sibiricus, Siberian moss, it is working on the large forest in that areas, in the permafrost area. Thus, here is Dendrolimus sibiricus. This is the most dangerous species, and highest outbreak was fixed in these years, in beginning of 50s. And this latest catastrophic, actually the similar area in this last decade. This defoliator feeds on the first Siberian pine and large species, and at peak of outbreak caterpillar density or larva density, you can see here can reach up to 20,000 larvae per one tree. And here you see this larva, and this is this is the eggs. And this is a view on the mixed shore Siberian pine taiga after the outbreak. And you consider the chronology of Siberian mass outbreaks starting from 19th century. You see that since 50s, the area of the outbreak is decreasing due to mass food-based depletion and forest fragmentation. And Siberian mass outbreak, of course, is related with climate variables, and you see here that you see the bars indicate delta active temperatures, delta drought, delta soil moisture content in the period of outbreaks versus the previous background period. You see that we observed increases of these variables before the outbreak. During outbreak development, and this is just a case study. And Siberian catastrophic outbreak, which is about more than 1 million hectares, which occurred in this period. And you see just the chronology of the upper topsoil moisture. You see in July, in June, in May, and also SPI drought index. And you see the beginning of the outbreak. It's coincided with the low upper soil moisture, upper soil moisture, and drought. And this is yellow indicates the end of the outbreak. So this is the pre-outbreak years, this beginning of outbreak, and this end of outbreak. And warming push opened opportunities for Siberian mass northward migration. Just here an example of the latest catastrophic outbreak, which you mentioned earlier. And northern boundary shifted northward on about 50 kilometers northward in comparison with former recorded former records. And here is a historical boundary. It was observed in, say, in 80s, beginning of 90s, but this is actual thermal boundary. So these insects now open opportunities to move northward into the former pristine Siberian pine and fir and large areas. And here you see the look of the defoliated Siberian pine, but by that insect. Similarly, warming promotes Siberian mass uphill migration. It is again in Altai Mountains. green line is this previous mountain alpine or mountain boundary, and red it is actual current, and potential range migrated uphill on this distance depends on the area, up from 250 up to 400 meters uphill. And here it is observed uphill migration from its since 60s. It shifted uphill on about 350 meters, and also northern boundary shifted up to 300 meters up to 66 plus latitude, north latitude. And some final notes. Recently, actually, this and previous year, we observed in our large forests unprecedented outbreak of large tortrix. Then insect which make and damage area in this part of Siberia, Tura site and Baitit site in the year 2020 and 2021, and damaged area is estimated about 400,000 hectares. Here you see the area, all this within this area. This area is damaged forest, green are on non-damaged. But actually, these insects do not cause mortality of the larch, because larch is survivor, but it decreased the large increment, and also by that it also affected carbon balance. And final note too, we also observed a fungi outbreak in the mountain larch stems. Actually, fungi are always how the action doing in this forest, but this is also unprecedented, up to 500,000 hectares, our preliminary estimate. And it was occurred in the mostly moisture large habitat in the South Sicilian mountains, shown on the map where this is located. This is right as the old Danish stems. And we also made some GIS analysis how it is distributed, with respect to the aspect, this elevation, the high elevation, the more mortality, and slope steepness. It's actually mostly in the gentle slopes, and it also mostly within concave habitats. And the last notes. While fire rate within insect stands, you know that burning rate in boreal zone in Siberia is increasing. Here it is our data. Our data is within Siberia, number of fires is increasing, and area of fires is increasing. These figures up to 12 million hectares per year. But within the past killed stands like that, fire rate was about 10 times higher than in the control area. And moreover, the occurred fires leads depression of conifer regeneration. You see this within this opened canopy, huge grasses and bushes communities, which are perfect for fire ignition during spring, and they push out conifer regeneration. And in conclusion, increased insect outbreak in the Siberian taiga promoted by elevated temperatures together with drought frequency and severity. And warming caused northward and uphill migration of the Siberian mouse outbreaks range into the former pristine taiga. And Siberian fir mortality caused by synergy of Polygraphus proximus attacks with drought stress and aridity increase within southern lowlands leads to substitution of Siberian pine and fir by tolerant species like betel species and Larix siberica. But Siberian pine and fir are increasing its growth within the sufficient precipitation areas, in highlands. And moreover, the species are migrated uphill and northward. Thank you, dear colleagues.
Thank you very much, Vyacheslav, for this really, really impressive talk on Siberian forest dynamics, and to see all these insects and bark beetles involved in this. It's really impressive. And we already gathered quite a few questions. Maybe you could stop the screen sharing, then we could see you.
Okay. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And now you turned your camera off, but it doesn't matter. We can just start. Maybe we have to go back to a slide anyway. So the first question, you want to turn on the camera? Yeah. So the first question, that's by Susan Conrad, and she asked, it's really sad to see all that tree mortality in Stolby. Is there any indication of beetle attack on older regeneration also? And what do you expect for the future?
Here we expected that now fir regeneration is healthy and density good enough for restoring initial forests. And actually, you can consider it is like one of episodes, but principal episodes of fir dynamic. But with the future projection, climate projection, we expected an increase of drought in our region, especially in southern part of the fir range. So I expect that consequently in the southern boundary of this of its range, fir will be escaped and substituted by other species. Nevertheless, these species, fir and Siberian pine, they are moving northward into the large dominating communities and producing healthy regeneration, as well as they are moving to the alpine tundra in the southern Siberian mountains. So I consider that our Siberian fir and Siberian pine will still exist in the foreseeable future in Siberia.
Okay, thank you. This leads me to the next question by Mirel Belou. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly, sorry. He said, this is a really incredible tree die-off, and he wonders what tree species can replace this enormous mortality of the main conifers. Do you think that really deciduous trees like Betula are an option, or do you have any other ideas about that?
Here, it's typical that the primary species mostly they are birch and aspen. Whereas within their climatic range, they are not occurred in the high elevation. Also, betel tortosa also living in the highlands up to 2,000 and higher. But eventually, with the time, fir and Siberian pine, especially fir, they are highly and spruce too, highly shade tolerant species, and they are growing slowly under the canopy of the aspen canopy or birch canopy, and moving slowly up to higher and higher. Whereas birch and aspen, they can't regenerate under the fir or Siberian pine canopy. And eventually, it is typical. And eventually, they will return to the initial stage, but it is not so how say straightway. Consider the outbreak which occurred in the 15th. It covered more than 2 million hectares. It was mostly Siberian pine and fir, but still now at least one third of them still not regenerated by initial species, because firstly, as I mentioned, periodic fires, they push out the conifer regeneration, whereas aspen could easily regenerate by sprouts. And then grass and shrubs community, they can occupy it for many years, more possibly for forever in some areas. And they do not allow hardwood species and conifer species to grow. Moreover, you know that fires are periodically has a high frequency within grass communities. So an example, 1/3 of that outbreak still not recovered. Also, more than 50 years spent.
So that's really worrisome for the forest in Siberia then. So are you worried yourself that they will decline further with the future, the forest areas?
I don't. You see, it's my opinion, but it have to be calculated, because according to the models, you know that the forested, as it was earlier, they are moving to the Arctic Ocean, to the coast of Arctic Ocean. Together with fire, by the way, we found that fires now occur even in the Arctic Ocean, tundra fires. Forests are moving to the Arctic Ocean. They, of course, will be substituted by forest steppe and steppe on the southern boundary. It is an inevitable result of the more warming. And also they will climbing uphill, and so lowlands, especially mainly in the southern part of this region, will be substituted by non-Siberian fir and non-Siberian pine species. But about the forested area, you see, the fires is very also essential. They are making an even high input into the forest mortality. Also, let me know that in the large dominant communities, in the permafrost areas, fires are very essential for supporting large communities, because in the fire-protected areas, there is no large regeneration. Large needs mineralized soil to regenerate. So these climate changes, they will be hardly affected our large communities. They are largest forests in the Russia. They carry about 70% of the territory. It is large. So national our trees is not birch as considered, but large.
Okay. Thank you. Now we move to more technical questions. So the first one is by Dajun Liu. How to distinguish the proportions of the mortality rate affected by drought and by beetle attacks? Do you find the legacy influences by the climate and the beetle? So, but the most important is really, how can you distinguish between if there is a drought or beetle, or if it's always together, or how do you do that?
Well, let me say it is always comes together. It always comes together. Yeah, let me make some notes. Firstly, of course, bark beetles, they are affected overgrowth. Very old trees, always, just because they are physiologically become very liquid. But outbreaks which we discussed here in the Siberian forest, they are intimately interconnected with the synergy of drought. First, drought stress, water stress, trees becomes weakened. they say so-called immune system raising production decreasing, and bug beetles are they multiplying, and moreover also invaders coming in our forests like Polygraphus proximus, which was never observed here. So it is inherently interconnected areas. I can't tell you what is proportion of the in scientific factors. It also, of course, is drought, but bug beetles is a contributing factor.
Okay, yeah, thank you. There's a very technical question, but maybe not everybody was familiar with that, by Boris Harzowek. How do you elaborate, or could you say a bit about the DNC concept, the dark needles? I think it's just to differentiate between Larix and other species, but maybe you could say a few words what it means.
I can tell you that dark needle conifer, that the conifers, it is how say it is our forested term. Actually, it describes communities which are covered Western Siberian lowlands and belts, dark needle belts in the mountains. They are precipitation sensitive. Raw belts occupied mostly by hardwoods and Scotch pine, and then at elevation, say about from 300 or 400 meters and up to say forest to the ecotone, they occupied by dark needle conifers. It is such a term we used.
Yeah, thank you. I think that solved it. So now we move into the bark beetle questions, and there was a question also by Boris. He says, it seems very interesting declaring a Monochamus cerebucide as competitor versus an invasive Polygraphus proximus bark beetle, which is clearly aggressive. Basically, the question is relating to what is the primary tree killer in Siberia? Is it not... Oh, okay, I'm really sorry. I'm not good in pronouncing the bark beetle names. Burosa felnius is not this one involved? Burosa felnecus involved? So this is the question, what do you think is the most aggressive bark beetle in your opinion?
This is the question?
I think, yeah.
Okay. Now, since the beginning of this century, that invader, some people consider this not invader, that possibly that small bark beetle which was found recently, because you imagine that with such a huge forested area, we have a small number, small density of the forest pathologists in comparison with the Germany or India or somewhere else. It was just missing before, but nevertheless. Now it is the most dangerous bark beetle which killed is now it is working proof, killed the fur. Previously, primary insect was the Monochamus urusei, which accompany Siberian moth outbreaks and also killed old and damaged trees. Now foresters estimate the proportion that about two-thirds are killed by this newcomer, and only 1/3 killed by that traditional enemy of our flock, by Monochamus urusei.
Okay, thank you.
And also the part of the problem is related to that Monochamus urusei have also how say traditional enemies. It means bacteria, viruses, parasites. But Monochamus urusei, it also has enemies, but they are still not adapted to this newcomer, this invaded species.
Okay, another pest-related question by John Riggins. Does Syrinx noctilo occur in the same areas and have also seen higher populations or any impacts from it too? Do you know the species Syrinx noctilo?
Northern species?
The species, it's called Sirex noctilio. Sorry.
Sirex. It is actually the typical Siberian also species. It is living here for centuries, for 1,000 years. It actually you can find it almost nearby the Arctic Circle. But such an outbreak, which we observed now, it was never recorded before. It was never recorded before. What? Of course, due to warming, it's provided an opportunity for this species. It's actually prefer as many insects warmer conditions, and now these warmer conditions they occur in our large forest, dry and warm. What this species needs for making outbreak, and food waste. A lot of food waste now it has in our large forest, but this is our traditional butterfly, which living not much was not much damage was previously, but now it makes huge outbreaks. But actually again I repeat, let me repeat, but these outbreaks not lead to the large mortality, but decrease its increment.
Okay, another question by Sigrid Nether about, are the large budmouth outbreaks you reported a new phenomenon? For the Western Alps, it is known that they have been reoccurring regularly since centuries, and that large forest ecosystems are well adapted to defoliation by these insects.
The question about large adaptation.
No, if the moth outbreaks, is this a new phenomenon, the large budmouth outbreaks, or has this happened in Siberia and these areas before? So they are well known from the Alps that they have happened there before.
No. It's we see both defoliators, Siberian moth and gypsy moth. They are essential element of our forests. And sometimes they also there's some create mutual outbreak areas together eating the needles, large needles together. Larch is our unique species. Is first it is high survivor species. Some large species like Kyander, etc. They most force with insects, and also it is adapted both to the fires and both to the green fires because of sitting buds. But we observed our forests observed as a double defoliation of the larch in Yakutia. It is permafrost area. It is northeast part of Siberia. They caused large mortality. They caused large mortality of the area about several thousand hectares, and but our forests cannot sample the trees because next year was a huge fires which fight all this that outbreak area. You know that fires and insect outbreaks they're interconnected.
Yep. So there's a question by Nate McDowell. He says, great talk. Do you have a feel for what species are dying more? And I think, yeah, we heard a bit about this, but maybe you have also a feeling if there's more the Siberian pine or the fir, and what tree traits may be associated with higher or lower levels of mortality?
You mean the how say microclimatic conditions and topography features, etc.
Yeah, also the physiology of the species. Why is like one the pine dying more than for instance the fir species, or the opposite?
Yeah, no, sure. This yes, there is of course the linkage with physiology. Also also let me say that this linkage in Siberian forests needs more studies. But the primary difference between one of the primary differences between Siberian pine and fir and spruce, that fir and spruce have a shallow root system. They have a shallow root system, and during the droughts, even also they are living, they are growing in their moisture habitat. But if the upper soil layer, say half a meter or slightly more, feels dry, the species will weaken or die. Whereas Siberian pine, their root system could enter in the proper soil on the about meter and a couple of meters depth. So it is from this point of view, this species more resistant to the droughts. Also on the within mountains, whereas the soil is soil depth is low, and it is underlined by the minerals. Also, similar Siberian pine is also acceptable, very acceptable to the drought. And again, it's from point of view of physiology. And again, about the microclimatic conditions, even the most incompleted devastated area of mortality or from mortality, you can find some trees which are growing in the better conditions, some in the depression and so, and or covered some the other canopies which are survived. Again, let me say that tree physiology of this mortality needs, let me say, Germans are investigators together with the Russians.
Okay, thank you so much. We're coming to the last question. We had a lot more, but due to the time that's now running out, I'm coming now to the last one by Christina Hackmann. And it's about management and economic pressures on the forest. So is there any economic pressure on the forest data that you have shown? And are these forests also managed for silvicultural processes? And or are we more looking at natural forest? That's the question by Christina Hackmann. So can you say something? Maybe you see a difference between forests that are managed versus forests that are less managed. Maybe you see a difference in the mortality dynamics.
You see, about the managed forests or planted forests. In Siberia, we have a rather lower percentage of planted forests. We still did not reach the level of the Soviet Union for forestry. Still lower plantation than in those times. But according to observations, just in this year, some plantations in South Siberian mountains, they are heavily damaged, but of exploitation of Siberian pine mostly, heavily damaged not by insect but by different fungi, because combination of high humidity and warming, and it caused that. Then about the economical aspect, actually in the Siberian pine is still prohibited to harvesting, because it's considered a high valuable species for ecology. But nevertheless, part of them harvested. But the dramatic situation with the spruce. We have spruce, for example, north to Baikal area, but a lot of clear cuts. A lot of clear cuts with no regeneration. There is natural regeneration, but you know the natural regeneration goes through the species succession, etc. We have also problem with Scotch pine, our famous pre-Angara Middle Siberian Scotch, very beautiful forest. They are heavily clear cutted. Very good regeneration of the sandy soils, very good, like a brush regeneration, very good. But in the more how say rich soils where pine is not so competitive, also you observed aspen and birch and the other species. Yes, and this business is now forced to plant it on the harvested areas, but this process still not much efficient. Hopefully in future the clear cutted trees will be replanted, especially such as Scotch pine, which is very valuable, very good wood, etc. And which and we can have a very good profits if making replantation of such things. In the absolute majority, there is a natural regeneration.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, for answering all the questions. I would give over to Rupert now. He would say some last words.
Great. Yes. Thanks also from my side, Vyacheslav, for this wonderful input. I've certainly learned a lot about the ongoing dynamics in Siberia, and thanks also to our audience for being here and also for asking a lot of very interesting and very diverse questions. I'm thanking everybody and just wanting to give you a heads up on our next seminar, which will be on the 25th of January of 2022. And we will have with us Barbara Benz, who's a research entomologist from the Rocky Mountains Research Station of the US Forest Service. And the talk will be about climate-induced bark beetle mortality. And it will be on the 25th of January at 5 p.m. Central European time, which is 9 a.m. Mountain time. So hoping to see many of you there in our next installment. Sorry again that we didn't get to address all the questions. As usual, there is much more interest, but I'm sure you can hit Vyacheslav with questions via email. And thanks again for being here, and see you all around next time.
Thank you, dear colleagues, for these opportunities, and welcome to study to investigate Siberian forests.
Thanks. Goodbye.